Format for today is GP2, 10-minute practice, 15-minute quali, 30-minute race. We're going to do the pit stop all in one go, so 15 minutes in we're bringing everyone in, then we're sending everyone back out. That is not my favourite way of doing it, but I have no other choice because of the way the cart charging works. No weaving. It's been 2 weeks since I've followed you. No driving. Costa's reminded me. Costa's in and upstairs, so he will slaughter you and your family if you weave. Also, driving forwards and braking really hard on the formation lap is going to get you bollocks as well. Don't do either, please. Any questions at all? Beautiful. Check your numbers and check your helmets and sit down.
What's your fastest lap?
43.4.
He's got the speed for it, you've got the speed for.
43.4. last minute, didn't you, last lap? Yeah, you were down to P8, dropping slowly for the second half. Last lap you pulled it out, nice one. Right, this is the final. Oscar's qualified in P2 and he's coming out in kart 3. Get away before Jamie starts to break through. He's in P5. Keep going. he's up to P4. Man, doing good, doing good. Made up some space on you there, dude. So, as per the new team sport rules, we've now got to take our kart back to the pits for a swap. These karts aren't allowed to run for any longer than 20 minutes at a time. It means the 2-second gap that Oscar's carried throughout the first half of the race that he's fought hard to achieve at the beginning of the race will now evaporate. It also means he's going to need a lot of luck not to be shunted out of the way, etc. in the race restart. It's going to be a rolling start, so we know the pressure is going to be massively upon us, as it's potentially the only chance the racers behind are going to get past him. So we're going to have to rely on a bit of luck here at the start. And let's see if he can hold on to P1. Fingers crossed.
Hello, Oscar. So, just very quickly, I know you've done rolling starts, but we're just speaking to everyone who hasn't led one on one of our races. What I want you to do, when you go out, just go super slow, just let everybody out of the pit lane. When everyone's out the pit lane, we'll give you a little wave, you can go as fast as you want. Once you make it down to the sweepers down there, slow down as much as you can, all the way down to a walking pace. When everyone's bunched back up together, we'll go green and then we'll send everyone off. And when it goes green, regular race start, yeah? Good luck.
Right, so the second half of the final. Oscar's now lost his advantage. But Alex Pritchard in P2 is going to be all over the back of Oscar. Then Joseph Simcock, then Jamie Sherman. Jeez. Let's see who can handle this then, dude. This is Oscar's first rolling start, or at least the first rolling start he's led out himself. I'm pretty nervous watching on, although I doubt Oscar is. He's got nerves of steel. But I know the quality of the racers that are behind him. I also know how desperate they're going to be to try and get past him in the opening stages of the race as soon as the light goes green. So I'm watching on pretty nervously at this point. We'll see how we can do. But to be honest, this is what we want. We want to be racing in pressure situations, in circumstances like this, because all it can do is help us to grow and help us to get better ourselves. Oscar gets a shout off the marshal now telling him to go, so he moves up to yellow light speed. Heading out. See you then. Go. Push you wide. Don't end up in the barrier. So there you have it. This is exactly why I don't like having to restart a race halfway through. All the work Oscar done in the first half to create that lead that he had has gone, evaporated. He's now down to P5. It's frustrating. But at the same time, we didn't complain about this on the night. We never said a word about it afterwards. Although other racers and even one of the marshals came up to us asking what happened. It's all part of the learning curve from Oscar. It's only going to make him stronger. The more people bash him out the way, the more he's going to become more resilient to that and learn ways of dealing with it. To be honest, after this race event, one of the other racers who's got a lot of experience in karting, going back for sort of 20 plus years, came up to us. He talked about what had happened. He's seen it from behind and he gave us some tips and advice on how to deal with loading. So yeah, that's what happened essentially. Alex behind Oscar, tap, 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 bang, bang, bang on the back of his kart. As you can see by the way, his head was shaking erratically and he was just pushed wide on the hairpin to the up ramp. There's not really a lot he could do about it. But the information we've been given of how to deal with this, hopefully in future situations, will protect us. And that's why things like this are actually good for us in events that aren't generally, seriously that important. So we'll take what we've learnt from it, hopefully become stronger, and let's carry on with the race. Mr. Blue finally gets us. He's been putting us under some great pressure since the start of the race, so fully deserved. Oscar comes around to come down the down ramp here and just leaves a little bit of room up the inside. Game over. Well done, Mr. Blue. Now I don't even know how to explain what happened there. Great move on Oscar's behalf to get the position straight back, and then he just leaves the door wide open for Mr. Blue to go back into the lead. Bit of the Truckle brothers going on out there. To me, to you, to me, to you. So let's watch that section again from Oscar's point of view. Yeah, that was a great switchback from Mr. Blue. Oscar just waves him through. They're beginning to lose pace on the races ahead, so they need to work together now to try and catch back up. So we finished in P5, promoted up from P6 due to the driver that was 2 ahead of us, receiving what clearly must have been a penalty, so that put him down to P6. Oscar's put up a brilliant effort throughout the whole event, excellent battling performance, refused to give in. He's received a very heavy shunt, obviously at the start of the second half of the race. Again, he didn't complain, there was no arms going up in the air, etc. He just carried on racing, just got on with what he does best. We hope that the marshals see that, because this is how he deals with all sorts of situations that are on track when it's a bit adverse for him. So yeah, incredibly proud of the way he handled himself again throughout this session. P5 is no small feat either, considering the quality of the grid tonight. Potentially, of course, he could have won P1 and had another Team Sport brick for the collection. But we got no complaints. We came off track afterwards. I won't show what happened up in the cafe because I don't want to be showing any faces. But we came off track. We never said a word about what happened. We had Jamie Shearman there 2 ahead and Joseph Simcock there 1 ahead of us. Both come up to us after the race with a couple of other people asking what happened. Jamie actually said, you know, it was a bit unfair from Alex what he did. But we've got no beef with anybody. It's been a fantastic event again. And we look forward to more. Go on then.
No, it's all.
Can't drive through penalty.